Good morning, everybody. I hope this video finds you well. Today, I want to talk a little bit of a topical subject. It's something I've been wanting to discuss for some time, and it is about the Chinese reaction when the United States tries to pull a Ukraine on Taiwan as an effort to begin the suppression of China. And that seems to be the obvious playbook. I could be completely wrong in that. There seems to be a strong degree of idiocy going on in the United States today. Zero diplomacy, terrible misunderstandings, and an unfolding of events that are infantile in thought, concept, and strategic value. We don't know what will happen in the future. But the purpose of this video is to tell you what we do know and then let everybody extrapolate from there. So I'm going to begin with a couple of prefaces. Hopefully, everybody will understand where I'm coming from. In 2014, then President Obama did his pivot to Asia gambit, in which case he set in motion a chain of events that would ultimately create a combative environment against China. And this environment had a number of components. But he created an environment where NED operatives assisted a minority party to get elected in democracies. The first was in the Ukraine, and the second was in Taiwan. Both of these areas have democracies and are located next to a very large nation, which is Ukraine is next door to Russia, and Taiwan is an independent part of China.
It starts with 年少便被烟问你们隔壁是过树冠，店里面的妈妈桑擦的有3段，叫寻找武士老板，地铁商场耍呀加强，店里的空腹最擅长后军种造就不该我打开任督二脉，东亚兵分的炸败，已被我出家听看。用手用手
And to explain what's going on, you have to understand things as they are, not as you may want them to be. The Ukraine has always been part of Russia. They speak Russian. They fought for Russia during World War II. And during the breakup of the Soviet Union became independent, but were highly aligned with Russia. In 2014, President Obama changed all that by handpicking an actor, putting him in place, and then him being a proxy for the United States deep state, or the United States machine of regime change, started implementing nationalistic elements, which included language, a suppression of all things Russian, and so on and so forth. And I'm not going to get too involved in the Ukraine situation, but set these things in motion, eventually becoming all things NATO proxy, because NATO is a proxy army of the United States. It's a proxy military. So it became all things NATO, with NATO leadership, NATO equipment, and NATO standards located in Ukraine, and crossed a shitload of red lines for Russia. Broke every treaty that Russia had with NATO, every treaty that Russia had with the Ukraine, every treaty Russia had with the United States. They just broke it. They just broke it. And Russia's been very, very, very tolerant. I mean, I don't know why they're so hesitant, but they've been very, very tolerant. And they said, okay, we're going to use military technical matters to take care of this conundrum. And it wasn't, it was by a hair's breadth before the Ukraine would have suppressed all the Russian nationalists in the Donbass, and movement of nuclear weapons and activation of the biological weapons that were being set in motion there. And okay, so the United States is busy doing this with the Ukraine right now. And of course, if you're reading the Western news, you think that Russia is losing, that Russia hasn't got a chance, that Russia made all kinds of blunders. Even Scott Ritter and others that I enjoy reading are saying, well, Russia made a mistake, and Russia did this, and Russia did that. And you guys are not listening to what Russia said. Russia said this is a catastrophic red line that has been crossed. We have no options but to suppress this issue. We have to do it, and we have to do it now. Right or wrong, whatever losses it takes, we are going to do it. Okay?
Since we have nothing more to say, let machine guns and cannons talk for us. Gentlemen.
한판석에서 얻을 수 없는 것을 전장에서 얻을 거란 생각은 절대로 하지도 마.
用不了多长时间，你们还是会回到谈判桌。到时候你们一定会自觉地收回这个厚颜无耻的方案。
洋人看不起我，今天只能在战场里。
To the best of the planning, to the best of the intelligence that they had at that time, stopped being armchair generals and trying to remake the narrative. And the United States has been behind all of this, from the killing of generals to the sinking of the one ship to guidance and bioweapons. The United States has been behind all of this, and all of what's going on in NATO. Okay? Of course, you're not going to read any of that in the West, because the West is so, oh my God, the news media is so beyond the pale. It is just so. I put this up. In a couple of days, you'll see it when I post the article. One of the article was women living in Shanghai phone booth because of coronavirus and the terrible poverty. I was like, yeah, and you probably believe it because you're out in the United States, right? You're in the West, right? Let me tell you why it's so ridiculous. China phased out all phone booths back in 22. A few were hanging around, and those few that were hanging around were all converted to free Wi-Fi hotspots back in 2010, which was 12 years ago. If there is a phone booth standing, it is an anachronism and maybe a museum relic, but there's no phone booths in China these days. The carrier would be China Telecom, and if China Telecom says that they don't have any phone booths, you can damn well believe there's no fucking phone booths in China. The carrier says so. So, and they got these pictures here. Who knows where the picture was taken? Probably New York City. Or maybe it's a Photoshop manipulated photo from back in 1995. Who knows? Maybe it's an image for illustration purposes. That's the way these things go. Nevertheless, and I'm diverging here. I'm diverging. I'm sorry about that. I do it a lot. But anyways, so you have this mess going on in the Ukraine, and we who are watching both sides of the story, and we who are watching it, are seeing military technical matters being implemented successfully. Phase 1 is completed and was successful. Phase 2 was completed and is successful. Phase 3 is in process right now. And I got to tell you guys, Ukraine has no military. Sure, there's a bunch of shit being shipped into there. You know, muskets and sabers and horse bridles from, the American Civil War. All kinds of bullshit's being shipped there. Depleting whatever warehouses, cleaning them out so the United States can give more money to military contractors to make even more weapons and stuff. Yeah. Now, when I say pull a Ukraine, what I actually mean is duplicating the same process, the same system in a similar way regarding Taiwan. So when I say when the United States pulls a Ukraine on Taiwan, I'm specifically saying that the United States is now going to cross a red line and force China to take action. That should be clear enough. Whether or not China is justified in doing this, whether or not America is allowed to do this, is up to the observer. There are many in the audience who believe that America can do whatever it wants throughout the world because it's the world's policeman and God has given it that ability. And without being the American policeman, chaos will reign all over the world. This is a neocon argument that is promoted heavily in the conservative and alternative conservative press throughout the United States. It is wrong. It does not exist. It's a fantasy. The rest of the world is doing fine. Thank you very much.
Forgotten age.
But that's a promoted narrative. And if you are unaware of that narrative, then you need to start cracking up and listening to these people. I just repeated exactly what Laura Ingraham believes. What Tucker Carlson believes. So, don't tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. I know exactly what's going on. There's a plan for suppression of China because China is evil and so on and so forth. You use Chinese products, but they're evil, right? And America's so great because everybody is fat and obese, has nice houses. And who cares about laws and justice and systems? Works okay for you. Who gives a damn, right? America's a very selfish country. Many people only care about me, 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 me. And that's because the society is one of me, 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 me. You want to see what America is? Go to Walmart. That's America. Walmart is what used to be downtown small America. Downtown small America. Downtown in the small towns within America. That's something like that. Now, guys, so when I say pulling a Taiwan, I simply mean that there's going to be a red line crossed and China will be forced to react to it. Why would China be forced to react against a sovereign, independent nation? Well, guys, you have to understand something. This is very critical, and I know the news media glosses over these points, but Taiwan is part of China. Historically has always been part of China. As far back as the Ming Dynasty, when there were those guys wearing those funny hats and those long dresses doing administrative work in Taiwan. A lot of history, way back. And it's very interesting history too, by the way. Or it's a Han Dynasty, then the Ming Dynasty. I get my dynasties all messed up, but hundreds of years of Chinese administration as part of China. It all kind of went belly up when the Japanese invaded China. Now, of course, if you're an American, you will not know that Japan invaded China, but they did, and they occupied it for a spell. And they caused a lot of atrocities, very bad atrocities. And there's a lot of bad blood between China and Japan because of that. And big fighting, and China...
There's
political movements within China was the Communist Party under Mao and the Nationalists under Chiao Kai-shek. I hope I'm saying that right. Anyways, he lost, and he moved over to Taiwan and set up his breakaway province. When he moved to Taiwan, Taiwan was a province of China. So he moved there. And China was too weak to do anything about it. And of course, the United States does all this stuff and makes all these lies, makes all these promises that it's going to break. So China considers Taiwan still part of China. Taiwan considers Taiwan still part of China. The UN considers Taiwan still part of China. And anything involved in all of this is all domestic issue. Now, America is hyping with all the excuses. We need to protect for democracy because democracy is so important. Democracy. Guys, listen. Unless you're brain dead, and there's a lot of brain dead people out in the world today. There really are. China is the oldest democracy in the world. Yeah, I know they call it communism because democracy in China is not the same thing as democracy in the United States. And you have to understand that. In China, democracy thrives. They had elections just a couple months ago. Okay? Very simple. If you're qualified to be a voter, you pick up your phone, you go and you handle everything. And it's really like doing player stats for a role-playing game. You pick out these people for whatever roles. You look over their background. Like I said, China is absolute merit-driven. And people are responsible. And if you're elected and you hold a role within the Communist Party, guys, you are held to a much higher standard than the general population, the GP. Because you have your own police force watching over you and breathing down your neck called the corruption police, and they do not play. America could use some lessons from that. But I digress. Anyways, so you have Taipei and China and Taiwan, and the United States is going to pull a Ukraine whenever it feels it can divert enough resources over in that area. And it's being set up for that. You've got the Eastern NATO, which is now known as ARCUS, and the Quad. Different terms, very failed systems. And the United States has some bases and operational parameters that's just going to be using Australia and Japan and Korea to deal with the Taiwan issue. This Taiwan issue is something that they're going to try to construct. Now, China is aware that this is going on. China understands that this is what's on the pipe. China understands it, and I have no doubt that China is going to deftly handle it spectacularly. You won't even see anything happening. How do I know? Because I watch what's actually happening in China, as does all the other expats. Go to any expat channel on YouTube. Go to any of us who have lived in China for a while, and we're all saying the same thing. Don't fuck with China. And I really want to underscore that because China is not Russia. Russia is very cautious. It's a big, slow-moving bear, and it really wants to be considered to be part of Europe. China, on the other hand, has been a kicked upon, tromped upon, abused, mistreated nation for centuries. They know they have no friends. The best they can do is be kind to others and be helpful. But they know that given the right money, given the right situations, the rest of the world will turn on them. So if they are attacked, China will strike back. They will not try to go to a negotiation table or discuss anything. If you cross a red line, China does tit for tat. But the red line's a little different. Until the red line is crossed, China does tit for tat. Red line is crossed, China pulls out the shotguns. And I'm telling you right now, the shotguns are already pulled out. They're locked and loaded. They're loaded and they're ready to be fired. The American military is quite aware of this. American leadership are delusional idiots.
Of China's growing military might. It's happening on multiple fronts and fast, prompting U.S. nuclear concerns. CBS News national security correspondent David Martin is at the Pentagon.
Hundreds of new ICBM silos under construction. A massive buildup which has forced the Pentagon to drastically revise the number of nuclear warheads China is adding to its arsenal. The commander of U.S. nuclear forces says it's a game changer.
We are witnessing a strategic breakout by China. Their explosive growth and modernization of its nuclear and conventional forces can only be what I describe as breathtaking.
In a new report, the Pentagon warns China could have 1,000 nuclear warheads by 2030, almost a five-fold increase over the current number. Hans Christensen of the Federation of American Scientists has been monitoring the buildup.
It's an astounding pace.
Have the Chinese ever done anything like that before?
It's far beyond what they have ever done in the past.
Nuclear warheads could also be loaded on hypersonic missiles, which are harder to detect than ICBMs. Last August, China conducted a hypersonic test that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs compared to the Russians beating the U.S. into space.
What we saw was a very significant event of a test of a hypersonic weapon system, and it is very concerning.
The Chinese buildup is dramatic, but they are not about to surpass the U.S. as a nuclear power.
And so if the United States, not if, when the United States pulls Ukraine on Taiwan, what can be expected? Bad things can be expected, guys. If the United States if the United States holds back on military actions, because doing so would be the destruction of New York City, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, Chicago, Denver, Miami, to name a few. So the United States would hold back and do as much as it could using proxy nations. But if the United States did something and they pull sanctions, China's ready for them. China already knows what to do. One sanction goes up, no products for you. Oh, we don't need the cheap lamps. We don't need the cheap toys. We don't need people. Those things are made in Vietnam and Mexico. The good stuff, the stuff you need, they're made in China. What do you mean the stuff I need? Oh, like aspirins, blood pressure pills, cancer medicines, Viagra, Cialis, all made in China, guys. Oh, there's a couple of factories here and there. The ingredients for those things, where do they come from? They come from China. Even if you were to make some of those medicines in Mexico, Vietnam, or wherever, the stuff comes from China. The ingredients come from China. Now, America could look for alternative sources of supply, maybe India, maybe Iran, both of whom are a nice part of the Eurasian group, the Russia, China, Iran, India group of a united Asia. You see, guys, the bear and the dragon have all paired up. And the consequences of going across a united Asia is suicidal. You can go on the internet and see the stats on China's hypervelocity AI-controlled missiles that have nuclear warheads. The bottom line is that China has them in unknown numbers. They can be launched and hit the United States in under 4 minutes. Under 4 minutes. They can't be detected. They can't be tracked. They can't be intercepted. And they detonate huge 250 megatons of nuclear disaster. A mega is 1,000 times larger than a kilo. And the worst nuclear bomb that America dropped was in Nagasaki, which was 20 kilos. These are 250 megatons. How do we know they have this ability? Because they've detonated these nuclear weapons in tests. They also do things with the nuclear weapons that we don't do in the West, which is they've made different flavors of nuclear weapons. The Chinese are very, very talented in the design and development of things. And of course, there was a big word about the enhanced radiation, the neutron warhead. It's the nuclear weapon that leaves things standing intact. Well, that's just hyperbole. Actually, the neutron warhead is just an enhanced weapon. It does nuclear damage due to blast and explosion and radiation, but the radiation aspects of it are enhanced. It lingers longer, extends further in different ways and types. One of these puppies are detonated. It's not adios muchacho. It's how do you say that word again? It just, these damn fucking things, they create a hole in the atmosphere. Whoomp. Not just fire and explosion like a big nuclear explosion. No, it opens up a hole in the fucking sky where outer space goes. I can tell you positively that there is one of these things with the name Washington, D.C. on it, another one with the name New York City on it. There's one with the name Denver, Colorado on it. There's one with the name Chicago, Illinois on it. Houston, Texas. San Antonio. New Orleans. Miami. San Diego. Virginia Beach. Jacksonville, Florida. San Francisco. Seattle, Washington.
我打开任督二脉，东亚冰块的炸败，已被我一脚踢开。只有闪电过，只有闪电过，心之明天在无力的世界里面。
Yeah, guys. That's called reality. And these are not Russians pushing the button. These are Chinese. Have you ever gone to school with a Chinese person? A real Chinese person? This is all very negative, and I really don't want to dwell too much on it. But I guess the underlying thing that I want to talk about is that nuclear weapons and dealing with a nuclear-armed China is a reality that you have to face. If you're listening to any of this justification for war with China and you're ready to wave the American flag for democracy, then you need to hear what I'm talking about. I often say that China does things in shotgun saturations. It's not just that the warheads are enhanced, designed to kill people with great lethality, but also that they are launched in a shotgun swarm. It's not just one nuclear bomb that's going to take out New York City. It's 20 that's going to completely wipe out New York proper. And so, somebody says, yeah, but America's got 6,000 nuclear weapons. Yes, it does. If it can get all the delivery systems up and running, if it can communicate with them properly and handle everything, sure. But I want you guys to think and consider carefully what happens when Russia and China both say, you know what, America is out of control right now, and they're doing this with Ukraine, and they're doing this with Taiwan, and they're doing this with this, and sanction that, and sanctions this. All right, let's erase America. And so they go and get their big pencil eraser, and they start holding it up and saying, okay, stop, please. And after many warnings, America still says one thing and then does something completely different, and so there they say, okay, well,
interessiert mich nicht, was die Leute über mich denken. Viele Menschen heutzutage denken nur an sich. Menschlichkeit, Gerechtigkeit gibt es leider nicht. Es ist kalt manchmal draußen, die Gefahr lauert draußen. So viel Neid gibt's da draußen, sehr viel Flug herrscht da draußen. Manchmal denkst du, warum funktioniert es einfach nicht? Vieles versucht dich zu blocken und verhindert dich. Es ist traurig, aber wahr, manchmal kommst du gar nicht klar. Den schweren Rucksack, den du trägst mit vielen Steinen, lass sie da. Bei schlechten Zeiten keiner da, in guten Zeiten jeder da. Das Leben ist halt ungerecht, gab viele Dinge, die ich sah. كل میبینم سن مترفایسی سر بلند باش که فردا روز نو است پشت زده قلب تکاورش بلند است Du kennst jeden Tag immer wieder aufs Neue. Fragt sich, wann bin ich da in der Welt meiner Träume? Fragt sich, wo führt er hin? Der Weg, den ich gehe, du solltest nicht mehr zögern, deinen Weg einfach gehen. Denn aduși mișorat ca să ne tapase Când îmi bina, sunt remontată pe se Sarvelan, boșcă, fără două roze n-auaz Boșcă sau în halbe, dacă o ordă și belaudat Du kennst jeden Tag immer wieder aufs Neue Fragt sich, wann bin ich da, in der Welt meiner Träume Fragt sich, wo führt er hin? Der Weg, den ich gehe, du solltest nicht mehr zögern, deinen Weg einfach gehen.
And that's just a tiny ecosm of how they handle these kinds of events. It's just a tiny part of how it's handled, and it gives you insight onto how rapidly and responsive China is. It's a new way of government, nothing at all like what you see in the West. And so China wants to keep things as it is, doesn't want to do anything. Taiwan, most of the Taiwanese people like things as they are. The group that's in rulership positions are put there through elections, but we all know that elections are always compromised. So who knows what the story is there? But we got this minority party with minority views in Taiwan. And United States is going to try to pull a Ukraine. And so here I am going to tell you what's going to happen. In broad strokes, China will make a formal declaration. You crossed a red line. While they're making the declaration, systems are in process. And then afterwards, 6 months, 9 months down the road, you will realize, holy fuck, China really screwed us over. You'll be so goddamn butthurt you won't even know what'll happen. Nuclear war? Maybe. Biological war? Maybe. We don't know. That's the beauty with China. China knows how to play poker. America right now has trouble playing tic-tac-toe with crayons. And I think most Americans realize that. So let's kind of recap a little bit. Keep in mind that everybody, Americans, Chinese, everybody, Russians, we all see that America is behind the Ukraine and America is behind Taiwan, and America is got its sights on instigating a conflict around Taiwan. And it's in all the publications. Everybody knows this. Let's face it, that's what's going to happen. Number two, China's already ready for it. China knows what's going to happen. China's ready for it. Number three, it may appear that it's the start of a conflict. It's not. It's been an ongoing conflict now for years. And so don't be fooled by whatever the news says. The news is just a propaganda. China will take over Taiwan if it needs to, and there's not a damn thing the United States can do about it. It can put up a hissy fit, it can say sanctions and whatever. Any sanction and any sanctions against China is going to really hurt the United States, because you see, China controls everything in America. China can control the value of the US dollar. China can control the flood of goods in the United States. China can determine whether or not the United States is going to be able to use electricity or not. China can control the food, create famines or not. Because China controls all of this, guys. China has the United States by the economic balls. And so, while it's sexy to talk about, when push comes to shove, what China would do, I'm here to tell you that China is a light switch. You do not want to turn that light switch on. Other people have said other things in other ways, but that's my take on it. As somebody who's over 40 years in the United States, been in the service of the government for...
One day you're screaming your love loud, the next day you're so cold. One day you're here, one day you're there, one day you care. You're so unfair. Something from your gut, turning on and go. Holy grail.
And who's been living in China now for 20 years, I can tell you that's the situation. What does all this geopolitical stuff mean for you? Well, not too much you can do about it. But if you're under some kind of crazy idea that the South China Sea is just isolated and any events in the South China Sea is not going to affect you, then you're delusional. China will bring home hurt right to your home. Up front and personal. You don't want to fuck with China. You one more time. China won the Korean War. America had to punt and said, enough, uncle, uncle, uncle. And that's why Korea was separated into north and a southern part. Because it punted. Take the heat. And that was against ill-armed, ill-equipped militia, not regular soldiers. China right now is nothing you want to fuck with. Merit-driven, aggressive, knowledgeable, with the peer-capable weaponry and stuff that Americans and the West don't even know it. So, guys, I hope I don't have to do another one of these videos about what will happen when the United States tries to pull a Ukraine on Taiwan. I hope I don't have to do another one. I don't know the specifics, but I'm going to just underline a couple of things here for purposes of clarity, okay? Number one, America is aggressively trying to suppress Asia. Number two, Taiwan is next. Number three, China has a powerful arsenal of responses on how to deal and handle with this. And again, China's like a light switch. You do not want to fuck with China. And you may say, well, we're going to have all these carriers out there and we'll base out of Australia and we'll do this and we'll do that. Forget about it. Forget about it. It's not going to happen. You want to base out of Australia? Australia's destroyed. Okay? China does not play. Well, we'll do a first strike and we will wipe out China and there won't be anything they can do with it. People, China is like water. You know what happens when you take a bucket of water out of a pool? The rest of the water rushes in. You can nuke China till cows come home. You know how big China is? You know what the population is, China? And they're all merit-driven. And again, I'm going to remind you guys, everybody fights. Everybody learns how to fight. Everybody can fire a gun by the time they're in 3rd grade. Military training starts in kindergarten and 1st grade. Everybody operates as a cohesive, merit-driven unit. It does. Right now, recruitment for American military, they're rejecting 75% of the applications because they can't do 5 fucking push-ups. They can't do 5 sit-ups. They're obese. They're way overweight. You know how many push-ups you have to do when you're in 1st grade? So in China, you got these little kids, 6 years old, in far better shape. Discipline running, merit driven, studying, working like crazy. And what do you got? Diversity hires, political analysts, campaign contributors, stock market brokers running the United States government. And you really seriously think that you can take on China? Why? Because America put somebody on the moon back in 1969, therefore America's great because America's got the Hoover Dam. Have you seen the stuff that China has? No, you don't, because you're not allowed to see it. In every way, shape, or form, guys, China has outproduced the United States at its heyday, and it's only getting started. You ain't seen shit yet. China doesn't want a war. The best thing that can happen is America just starts scrapping up these plans that Rand generated out of Washington, D.C. That's the best thing. Start scrapping them up and start planning something new, because you have to live through life as it actually is, not as you want it to be. But I don't see that. I see a dementia-ridden, feeble old man who's just repeating what he's told to on the teleprompter. His second in command, Vice President Harris, Christ almighty, she's a giggling sophomore. The people who are running the project planning for strategic and tactical operations in the United States are ideological neocons that make Nazis look like saints. It's a recipe for disaster. So, what's going to happen? And a conflict breaks out in Taiwan. China will take Taiwan over. China will not allow a conflict to break out. But if a conflict breaks out, something goes out, and conflict breaks out, China will take over Taiwan. America will protest, and America will do something and that thing. And whether it's nuclear, biological, economic, whatever the response will be, 6 to 9 months later, America will be so butthurt from it, they won't be able to sit down. And that's the truth. And that's my way of telling you, y'all need to start talking to your Congress critters and telling them to fucking lay off, because it's going to be bad. It's going to be really, really bad. And I want to underscore yet another thing. Right now, China has a shotgun pointed at Uncle Sam's belly. Fully knows what's going on, and it's ready to pull the trigger. So, relax a little bit, because you know that Uncle Sam, the United States government, is going to die if it does anything with China. And at that, guys, be part of a community, do your best. And at that, guys, I want to end up with my basic words of advice. Be good. Smile. Make a difference in the world that you live in. Be good to dogs, cats. Be helpful. Be the Rufus. Participate. Don't be a spectator. And when the situation calls, take action. And at that, guys, remember,